Wayne, you are on.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Wayne McHugh. I'm the COO of Spentra. Spentra is a pay card payroll solution for employers. Just to give a little bit of background, our technology parent company, if you will, is Gannard Technology. We are technologists at heart. We've been around for about 10 years. We built from scratch a transaction processing platform, and through our migration, we were actually an ATM processor. We built our own ISO 8583 switch. We had hundreds of ATMs on steroids, if you will, across the country in both retail environments as well as employers, offering a myriad of different services, such as ATM, bill payment, international money transfer, telephony services, loyalty cards, and a little product we call Money Earned. And what Money Earned is a technology that allows employees to gain access to up to 50% of their net wages at time of request at any time during the pay period in advance of the paycheck date. We do this by interfacing directly with an employer's time and attendance and payroll system, so we actually have factual data on how long someone has worked, and we calculate their net wage. We have our own native apps in Spentra, and we have a Visa branded debit card that goes along with the offering. What I'd like to do today is kind of walk you through the customer journey map. It will let you know what an employee would face going through signing up for a Spentra Card, and then we have a portal that we provide to all employers where they can actually track, if they'd like to, the activity to see, is this a product and a benefit that would welcome bringing into their company, and was it worthwhile? And using the word worth, the Spentra solution is provided to employers absolutely free of charge. There is no cost at all. We've designed the system, as a matter of fact, to help reduce overhead as opposed to add it. My background is operations management, predominantly in the manufacturing sector before getting into the software game. And this is one product that was designed from the ground up, not only to service the employee, but also provide benefit to employers, and you'll see a little bit of that as we go through. So what I'd like to do here, if I can figure out how to go to full screen, let's see. Full screen, here we go. I'll start off with some shameless plugging from our website, and what we like to refer to ourselves as, we're kind of the next generation payroll cards. It's not just a card. We think it brings a lot more to the game. As mentioned, there's no fee to the employer or the employee for the card itself. It's not a complicated process to put in because we've automated everything, and it comes with our patented Money Earned benefit that allows employees to gain access to up to 50% of their net wages. We were first in thought, first in production, and first to patent on this. We have 3 patents around the Money Earned process and 5 patents around our technology stack. It comes with mobile banking, so employees can, view their balances, their activity. They can actually block and unblock the card directly from the app. They can actually reset their PIN for ATM or POS purchases directly from the app if they think they've been compromised. All of this is in real time. They can manage their text alerts. There's an embedded ATM finder, which at the very end of the conclusion of this, I'll actually do a live demo of my phone actual Money Earned. Again, the Money Earned portion of it. And we tried to put out a product that would be the most fair for employees. So there's 38,000 surcharge-free ATMs because we don't want people paying ATM fees. There's no minimum balance requirements. There's no monthly maintenance fees. There's no fees for direct deposit. There's no PIN-based POS transaction fees and no signature-based POS transaction fees or credit POS fees. So when an employer decides, yeah, sure, we'll do the Spentra solution, we go through the integration with them, and their employees would download the app, and we give them some slick little slides up here saying, you know, get paid your way, you know, use it, it's yours, anytime, anywhere. It is FDIC insured. Our bank is the Central Bank of Kansas City, and then they can get going. So they sign up to register, and we let them know up front a couple of things. You have to be 18 years of age or older to get the card, and your employer has to have sponsored this for you to gain access. We have them sign an electronic communications agreement, and basically it's a 4-step process from beginning to end to get to where they want to get to, and that's having a card. So the first thing they would do is start typing in where they work. It would pre-populate with everything within those parameters. They would pick the company that they work at. They would enter their employee ID number, their date of birth, and the last 4 of their SSN. We make calls to the platform to pull that particular person's information and validate that they're the person who we think they are with that employee number and where they work. The next they would do is create their account. They would enter and confirm their email address and enter their mobile number, and then pick any password that has 8 characters and confirm that. Once that happens, we now know who the person is, what mobile device they have, and we send them an OTP, a one-time password that would show up as a text on their phone. They would enter that 4-digit code, and now we know exactly who they are. Their next step, if the company hasn't opted for instant issue cards, they can actually order the card directly from the app. So the first step of that is to make sure that they understand the Patriot Act. At this point, they enter their entire Social Security number. We do not keep it. We do not use it. There's no credit checks ever done. It is sent directly to a company called Ideology, which has been certified by the U.S. government to approve financial instruments. They run basically a LexisNexis and make sure that the person exists and has the right Social Security number and everything matches up. They would then enter the address that they would want their card shipped to directly. And if you notice, the employer is not involved in any of this process so far. Once they fill that out and hit continue, we bounce that information off the U.S. Postal database, and they select the one that best fits them, kind of similar to online shopping. And at the next screen shows all of the agreements associated with the program. And I'm sure every single person opens up every single screen and reads everything on there before accepting. And this happens in less than 3% of the cases, but if they typed in, inverted a couple of numbers on their Social Security number, it's close to validating who they are, but through Ideology, they would be asked what's called out-of-wallet questions. And they're questions that are germane specifically to that person, like, what's the color of your 2017 Honda, or did you live on Perham Street? And they would answer those questions that only they would really know, and they are successful. They have ordered their card. At this point, it is going to be processed and will be mailed out and received in 7 to 10 days. And they can opt at this point to use text alerts. Either they want them or they don't. They can always change that later on inside the app. And just a quick side note, when we were developing the product, I had a card. I gave it to my daughter who was off in college, and she called and asked me, can you please help me out on a college book? And I said, how much is it? She said, $250. So I pushed the funds directly to her card, and about 36 hours later, I received a text for $28.50 from Papa John's, and I asked her, I didn't know Papa John's started selling college books, but very helpful so people can track when money's going on or money's coming off. The last step is to set up a quick access the Spentra app from the phone, and simply put in a 4-digit code and confirm it. If their phone is biometrically enabled, we know that. So if they'd like to get in using either Touch ID or Face ID, They can opt in for it here. They can also change it later on. And we send off an email kind of congratulating them and giving them all the basic information that they can actually activate and set their PIN directly from the Spentra app when they do receive their card. So that was the entire login process. We've tried to make it as streamlined as possible. We've tested it out from millennials to greatest generation, and we've had high degree of success first time through. So when they do end up logging back in, say they received their card, there's kind of a hierarchical way of getting in. If they opted for biometric, that will present itself first. They can either go through with that, or if their fingers are frozen and the iPhone won't let them in, it will then go to using their unlock code. And if they can't remember that, they can always get back in using their email or mobile number along with their password that they had put in as part of the setup process. To activate the card, this would be the screen they would see. They simply tap Activate Card. They enter the last 4 numbers of the card and the last 4 of the SSN, so we can do the validation. They would set their PIN number and then confirm their PIN number, and their card is successfully activated, and they can go off and do whatever they want to do with a Visa branded debit card.
Hey, Wayne, you've got a question. Jason, go ahead. Please ask Wayne. You said you had a
Great,
question out there.
thanks. Just trying to whisper a good interruption. So one of the things I was wondering as you were walking through that setup process, I'm kind of picturing an onboarding process where an employee might be looking to set this up prior to day one at work, to have, card in hand. One of the benefits we're talking about here is, quote, same day pay, right? So that gets us into first day pay, which is a lot of, and there's a trend in the marketplace for that. At what point is your system talking back, maybe through an API call or otherwise, to the HRMS to identify that employee as an employee and or start tracking their data? Is that when they sign up, or is that when they want to request funds, or can you talk a little bit to that timing?
Sure.
Would they be able to register beforehand?
Okay, no, that's a great question. One of the things that we do is not pull the entire employee database from the platforms that we're set up on. As we go through the portal presentation, it'll become much more clear what we do and how we do it. But people can order the card from the app, as you just saw here, so they would already have to be an active employee within the company. However, if we're talking about new hires, we also provide the employer with a portal, and they can opt for instant issue cards, where we would send an inventory of cards directly to the employer. And as new people came on, the cards could be instantly issued to them from day one. So does that answer your question so far?
Yeah, but then that's done internally and by my team, so it's really just a pay card.
Yes, it's a pay card, but once it's instant issued, they can also download the app and get access to money earned as well.
Yep, understood.
Okay. From the main screen, they'll always see their Spentra Card balance right there. It also shows the money earned balance available, and again, that represents 50% of the net wage at time of request. They can find their direct deposit information right here, and we'll go through direct deposit automation later on when I go through the portal. And there's the embedded map. So it uses the proximity from the phone to identify all the surcharge-free ATMs within that area. Or if they're planning on traveling somewhere, they can actually put in the zip code and see the lay of the land from that as well. As far as money earned, when they hit the money earned icon on the front of the screen, it will show the available balance. It'll tell them what check date, if they do take funds, that it's going to be coming out on. It shows the current pay period that they're working in, and it shows the last time it was updated, the last time we did a system update to their platform. If they decide to move forward, now we do have a brand new release that just came out, and this slide deck hasn't been updated yet. But when they get to this screen here, it'll actually show how many money earned transactions they have remaining in their pay period. We have some employers where the people are using the money earned on basically a daily basis, and some people have been using it multiple times a day. Based on how low the fee is, they just been using away. So we put down a countdown counter there and re-emphasized again when the pay period ends, because at the end of the pay period, whatever money earned balance they have resets to 0 for the new pay period. But this is where they would come in and pick the amount that they would want to take. And currently right now our fee is, it's $1 per transaction up to $100 taken. So for example, if someone went in and wanted to take out $180, it would be a $2 fee. And there are no limits on the number of transactions or the amount of money they can put on their card up to the 50% limit. As soon as they hit the selection and confirm, those funds, when they see this screen, the funds are on their card. We have a settlement account at Central Bank of Kansas City. So it's basically an account-to-account transfer. So when they see this screen, the funds are there. So I can't use the word instant. I can kind of use the word immediate, but there's no 5-minute, 10-minute, 2-hour next day. It's really immediate access of funds. So if they want, when they go to the manage card screen, again, this is where they can block and unblock the card. So you leave a restaurant, you notice your card's not there, you can jump on your app and block the card. Nobody can do a transaction instantly from that point. However, if the card is not located in a reasonable amount of time, if they're set up with direct deposit, that would still flow onto the card, even though it's in a block status. They can reset their PIN. Resetting the PIN is instant. So if they feel that their PIN's been compromised, they can change the PIN out and feel safe that if someone was looking over their shoulder, they're not going to be able to get that access to their funds. They can set their transaction alerts here, text alerts here, and replace your card just takes them to an 800 number, but in the future, this is all going to be automated as well, and we'll walk them through the process without having to make a call and talk to a live person. And the card also comes with a feature of card to account. So if someone already is banked, they like the feature of money earned, but maybe have a bill coming up and they don't have enough to cover that, they can actually do a money earned to this card and then set up their bank account and transfer those funds to their bank account. And there's no charge for that. And the transaction time is ACH, so it's usually the next business banking day. They can check their activity. We kind of color-coded everything. Green means money's going on, red means money's coming off. And then they can manage their profile. If they change an address, that's where they would go. They can see the app settings. If they need help, they would hit there and have a toll-free number to call, or they have a text option where they can text customer service. All of the legal stuff is under legal stuff, and they can go look at it at any time. And if they're really old school, they can actually sign out from here. And that kind of shows the customer experience. So I'll kind of stop there and ask Nov if there's any questions at this point.
Yes, actually there were. And Michelle, please feel free to ask the ones that you'd ask out here in the chat box. It's probably sometimes easier for you to ask it because you know exactly what you're looking for. Michelle, we're not hearing you. I'll just say, okay, so Michelle has asked.
There we go.
I'm sorry, there you go.
Sorry.
Go ahead, please. No problem.
So I was just wondering what kind of reports payroll would get, because it may not be that the employee has received all of the pay they're entitled to by the end of the pay period, and we need to reconcile that. And then kind of on the heels of that, those aren't really flat dollar amounts they're getting, are they? Because if you're calculating what's owed, you have to remove taxes and all that to get to a net, right?
Right. So what we do is interface on the platform on both the time and attendance portion of it and on the payroll side. So from the payroll side, we take the trailing 4 weeks and calculate what their net pay average is, and then convert that into an hourly net wage amount. So everything we do is in net wage dollars. It's never dealing on the gross end of things. Does that answer the question?
It does. It does. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And knowing what's waiting in the weekends, Michelle and the rest of you, that we will get to all the things that you are producing, Wayne, from your standpoint for both payroll, the employer, and the employee in terms of reporting. So it's pretty thorough stuff.
So this is
I have a follow-up question to that, if I may. I see one kind of concern there. Since this is employer-sponsored and that, there's a lot of discussion in this realm, and I'd like to know your thoughts on it. I'm certainly not an expert. When we start talking about the regularity of pay and expecting when employers can expect pay, employees can expect pay, and what is payday, and when that gets into some of the legislation, particularly in California, about when wages are paid. So there's been some discussion, at least in our group, from a legal perspective, about making sure when we look at these type of solutions that doesn't come back on us as a payor, even though we're integrated. Do you have some thoughts or some opinions on that?
Yeah, we've actually met with, I'm trying to remember, Department of Business Oversight, I think it is, in California. And we've met with them. They actually really like the product and the fairness of it. And I mean, we're not touting same-day pay. We originally designed Money Earned to help employees get through their pay periods. And what we found was something really, and first off, the employer is not on the hook for that. I mean, this is right within the agreement. We're the ones who are responsible. It's not the employer. One important point of note when it comes around others that are in this industry, because we were kind of the first ones in, and we met with the CFPB, in California. We met with Department of Business Oversight, because we knew that payday lenders were not welcome. And if I could if I could compare the CFPB, they were duck hunters, and if you were a payday lender, you were a duck. So we met with them and said, we're throwing ourselves on the mercy of the court. We know you're in the duck hunting business, and business is a booming. We kind of look like an ugly duck, but we think we're more of a swan, and we'd like to get your opinion on that. And in order for a loan to be considered a loan, one of two conditions have to exist. First one is extension of credit. Because we do what we do, we know exactly how long someone has worked and what their net wage is owed to them, and we just allow them access to that. There is no extension of credit. The second one is recourse. And because we're interfaced with the employer, as soon as an employee does a transaction, we no longer have any business with them. Our business is with the employer, who is the steward of the disbursement of an employee's pay. So there's no extension of credit and no recourse. And per the CFPB, we are not regarded as a loan product in all 50 states.
So just help me understand, another question that we've dealt with in our group is, so if that nets out to a zero net pay for the employee, we aren't meeting minimum pay requirements in some cases.
Well, our system is configurable, and again, they're only allowed access to up to 50% of their net wage. Philosophically, when the product was developed, we wanted people to still get a paycheck at the end of the pay period, but we felt 50% was really kind of the maximum that we felt comfortable allowing. We've had employers ask, can you raise that up to 100? Can you keep it at 20? We have done programs where it started at 20, but inevitably over the first 4 or 5 pay periods, it gets pushed to 50 because of the demands of the employee base. Our intention is not to have employees ever upside down, and we always want to make sure that they do have, that paycheck experience on the paycheck date. Does that answer your question? So being configurable, if the state of California mandated that X amount needs to be available at any given time, we can actually do that for employers in that state.
Understood.
How do you factor in for garnishments and things like that? I mean, there's already you're looking at a minimum that you have to leave behind after garnishment, and if somebody's getting 45, 50% of their wages garnished, I'm assuming you guys have visibility to that as well?
Yes, and that's through the API calls. So
okay.
I'll give you a case example. We had one employee, contact us and say, my money earned balance is going down. What the heck is happening? And when I looked in, my first question was, have you had any recent, deductions? And they said, well, yeah, I had insurance, but, it shouldn't be that bad. But when I looked in, he actually had, sure enough, he had the insurance, but he also had 3 child support garnishments that were put in over a 2-week period. And the money earned balance availability went down dramatically. There are some cases where we can't even offer money earned because of so much of the paycheck has been garnished.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So I'm going to take the opportunity. I've got like 5 other questions if I can jump in, or do you want to wait until the end?
No, we're at a pretty good breaking point because you saw the customer journey, and I'm about to go through the portal, which is what the employer would have access to, and that's inclusive of the instant issue process to instantly issue a card to an employee who just walks in randomly, or a new hire coming in off the street on a Thursday and they're going to be paid next Friday. They can walk out of HR with a card in hand.
Okay, so a couple of questions I have then. You talked about APIs. Now I'm assuming then that you also handled batch files, because when you think about some people have on-prem payroll systems that don't necessarily handle APIs in one way or another. So I'm assuming you handle both on-prem payrolls as well as things like ADP or any of the other vendors that are out there?
Right. We're on one. We're interfaced on one platform where they don't have any APIs, and what happens is a daily hours work file will be. We work with the employer and have them set up an automated job that sends out the hours worked once a day, and everything is updated. And then we actually send a deduction file. We ask them for their format for their deduction upload, and we simulate that. We ask them to create a ghost employee. We simulate a transaction. We send that file to them. They upload it and just make sure that that process works. So the answer is yes. We prefer using API, but we do, and we would entertain doing what you just mentioned, the batch file format.
Okay, good. And this is US only, or do you support anything outside the US?
Right now, we're strictly US.
A roadmap, maybe?
On the roadmap, yeah, our intent. Well, we actually have our part of our technology development group in Pune, India. I actually started the company in India 10 years ago, and so we have offices in Pune, and that's one of the advantages that we feel we have. We're a technology company first, so from the apps to the portal to everything that you see has been created in-house. So when things do come up that either can you solve this problem, can you add this feature, if we physically can do it, we do it, and we do it in-house, and we don't charge for that. Whereas others who have maybe purchased the technology find it very difficult to kind of keep up with those requests because they really don't. They own the work, but they can't own the process. So
right, no, fair. On your part, do you guys, obviously there's a card there, do you guys support Apple Pay, Google Pay integrations?
Not yet. our sponsoring bank, which is Central Bank of Kansas City, has it on their roadmap. I believe it was supposed to be for fourth quarter, but it's looking like it's going to be sometime 2020.
Okay, good. The other question I have around security and more than anything else, do you guys support or offer two-factor authentication?
Yes, we use two-factor authentication several points through the technology.
Okay. And then the account itself, I would imagine that you'd handle bill pay. I can pay my utilities or set up automatic payments and then things out of my bank account to my bills.
We don't offer bill pay as part of the app, but if they have a bill pay, if they have payments that they need to do, it's just like a regular bank card, so they could set up payments via that format. But we don't offer an embedded bill pay service. As a matter of fact, the bill pay that we had when we were in the kiosk business was the least used feature we had on there. And there's hundreds of apps that are free apps out there that handle the bill pay features. All you need to do is add your card information.
Right. Okay, and then the last question I have is, I'm assuming then from an employer perspective to Spentra, every paycheck is a standard ACH file?
As far as the repatriation is when the employer is going to send the funds back, yeah, it would be, we send all the information, and then our services agreement, so they would set up, if it's API driven, we're actually set up as a vendor inside of the payroll portion, and on the paycheck date, those funds would be ACH'd to our bank account.
Okay, good. I'm done. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for the questions. Are there any others, No?
Yes, there are. And Bobby, I was going to ask a clarification on that when you're talking about the training, the employee training. I don't want to surmise what you were thinking, but maybe you could touch, Wayne, on the website itself and everything about the financial wellness perspective, how to manage your money and all that kind of stuff that you provide with the app as well.
I'm not following the question 100%. I'm sorry, No.
Hi there.
Oh, yeah,
Hi,
go ahead, Bobby.
it's Bobby. I'll make it quick here.
Sure.
The reality is 68% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So now what we're giving them a chance to do is use half their paycheck before they get their paycheck. So I was just asking, is there any sort of training that goes along for the employee that is provided, with the product?
We don't have like a financial education portion to the app. Similarly to the bill pay, there are a myriad of different financial planning tools and financial education apps that are out there. They're all free. I mean, we could embed one of those in there, but
if they're out there and they're free, they're not attached to the technology that is allowing them to use half of their paycheck before it's payday.
That's correct.
So do you believe, Wayne, in any sense, the fact that they're free is one thing, but I know that when we had our very first conversation, and I think you were very passionate about the idea that, a lot of people struggle through the idea of my paycheck comes in late, my bills are due early, I'm paying, service fees for paying late in that process. We talked a little bit about the educational perspective of having that kind of information. If people just, if presented by it, they would probably respond to it and perhaps even follow it. So do you have anything on your roadmap that would say, may bring that kind of stuff to the table, or are you just kind of staying with just the processing side of this?
No, not the processing side. We are going to bring some educational technology into the app, but that's probably not going to be until Q1 or Q2 next year.
Okay.
Because everything that we've done to this point, we've tried to make it as fair and as informative and as transparent as possible. Right. And I guess I would be looking to this council to maybe make some recommendations of exactly how that should be packaged and presented, because you can start going down that path and really end up in the weeds and, you know, trying to manage people where what we're trying to do is empower people. So I would welcome any kind of feedback from the committee to say, well, we've heard of this particular group or this particular product, and it's like 80% of the way there, but if you could have X, Y, and Z on top of that, this would be a home run ball. We'd love to have something like that, because we've looked at different types of financial planning, financial education, financial wellness, and it spans the horizon from, you know, very kind of archaic to very, very detailed, and, you know, where people are actually using the app to plan their paychecks and input a whole bunch of information. We just don't know what would be the right one.
Yeah, so that's a great challenge, and folks, if anyone who's listening has got the inclination to want to do that, please send me an email and we'll forward it on to Wayne, and I'll try to consolidate things so he's not bombarded. But that's a great little challenge for all of us to think through. I would liken this to a little bit of the success we've had around 401ks, in the sense that we made it advantageous. It was a tax savings, etc., and we still can't get people to understand how to use it well. So it's one of the, and we've been at that one for a while. So to your point, we'll see if we can get some perspective and send that back to you.
I will let the group know that we've received feedback from consumers, and we have different case studies. One young woman had gone through a horrible divorce, and I guess her ex-husband destroyed their credit unbeknownst to her, and she actually used money earned as kind of like a Swiss Army knife to help start repair her FICO score to the point where after 18 months, by paying her bills on time and really being, you know, a good steward of her pay, she ended up qualifying for a home for her and her daughter. Another example, and this is the one that really kind of got to me, was, you know, it was, thank you so much for your product. I finally now don't have to choose between putting gas in my car and buying diapers for my child. So there's, and I will tell you that people may say, well, who uses money earned? And over the past 6 years, we've found out a couple of things. One, the product really runs horizontally through all the market verticals out there. But more importantly, number two, is people would assume or may assume that this is going to be used by lower wage earners. And what we've found is it's really based on household income and the frequency of pay. So if you're being paid weekly and you have a household income of under $50,000, chances are you have multiple opportunities to manage your money better by using money earned. You know, if you bump that up to closer to 60 to 70,000 and being paid every 2 weeks or twice a month, you're using it, again, different reasons. And we actually have an HRIM company here in Dallas where the average salary is $89,000, but they're paid monthly, and they're using it at the same rate, but a much higher amount that they're taking. And that group is predominantly trying to fiercely defend their FICO score. So they're going to make sure that their mortgage and their car payments and everything is paid on time to kind of protect that FICO score, where the middle ground is more about, yeah, I'm really interested in getting my bills paid on time, but I'm being paid every 2 weeks, and I'd like to have maybe a little bit better food choices for my kids towards the end of the pay period. And the lower wage worker, they're just trying to get through week to week. And the one condition that we really haven't talked about, and I don't think people talk about enough, is a product like this gives, you know, some dignity and some anonymity to the people who need it most. When we had the kiosks, I'm sorry, when I was managing one manufacturing company, I had about 2,000 people. We were in the loan business, and probably about 40 people were the, repeat offenders. They were in just about every pay period borrowing what they could. But I also know that there was probably that amount times 2 that didn't come in because of, pride, and they didn't want people to know what was going on. So they, if you will, they were suffering in silence. So we think this product actually allows people, not to have to walk into that payday lender and to manage their funds with a certain amount of anonymity and a whole bunch of dignity.
Yeah. So there's a question out there, and Keith, I'll ask it on your behalf, but I think it's a nice one, and that is, so the benefits of using this product within their environment, Keith has said, what are the benefits in general? Do the employees stay longer? Are they more productive, et cetera, et cetera? You and I talked about a little bit about what that might mean. So let me let you answer that one.
Sure. So we're in a couple of different market verticals. One is in the elder care market, where bringing employees in is tough. They have incredibly high turnover rates, and it's mainly around money, right? So most of these organizations pay either twice a month or every 2 weeks, and their people just really can't make it. So they'll take a job for a period of time, and then when they find something that's either being, they can get paid weekly or whatever, maybe it's 50 cents more an hour, they'll jump ship. And what we've heard directly from the employers has been that it's a great attraction tool for them, because they openly say, if you start and if you get this card and if you, get the app and money earned, you can kind of manage your funds on a day-to-day basis, which has been great for a number of our clients. And it's a retention tool to the point where, people aren't going to jump ship for 25 cents an hour if the place they're going to go to doesn't have a benefit like this. And it is especially true in the educational market, because as they're trying to hire new teachers, they typically get hired in August, and they can wait upwards of October 1st before they ever get their first paycheck. So recruiting has become a nightmare, and they see this as a way where people can actually take the job, start working, they're earning the funds, it's not costing the school districts anything to have the service available, and it allows them to recruit and retain a lot better. I hope that answers the question.
I think it does. I'm just curious, and maybe the audience would kind of help me on that one. To me, it strikes me that if I were considering changing my payroll frequency, and sometimes that's mitigated for lots of different reasons, some of them just for the heck of it, but the moment you do that, that causes such an inordinate amount of pain for the employees trying to refigure their whole perspective. If I'm going from semi-monthly to bi-weekly, maybe that's favorable. If I'm going the other way, it may not be favorable. It seems to me that Spentra would bridge that gap fairly easily as a communication.
Yeah, you're 100%. We actually had a client in Texas that they, believe it or not, they make the aggregate that puts down stripes on highways or roads. Well, 2 of their competitors moved into the exact same town. It became highly competitive for the workforce. They had already started down the path of going from weekly to semi-monthly, and what they did was they brought us in, and they actually subsidized a certain portion so their employees could get used to. So they went through the first 6 pay cycles where they were subsidizing the money earned feature, and they were able to make that transition fairly smoothly. Now, the downside of that is this is when we have the kiosks, and when we got out of the kiosk business, the COO called me up and said, well, we lost about 25% of our workforce as soon as the kiosk went out. So it kind of proved that it was really a retention tool as well. But yeah, if someone wants to make a shift, and we do have employers who, they subsidize the entire program. So they're using it as, here's a super benefit for you. You're not going to get this anywhere else. And it really kind of reflects in the fact that people are sticking around.
So Wayne, when you talk about it, you'd mentioned earlier that there's really no cost to the employer. So when you talk about subsidizing, there is subsidizing the transaction fees that employees would be paying.
Yeah, just the transaction fee. So
Right.
if an employer implements a Spentra solution and their weekly payroll was $200,000, post sign up and rollout, nothing changes on their side. If they do want to subsidize, that's up to them. We've had people say, nope, I'm just bringing this in for my employees. We've had other people say, we'll subsidize the whole thing. And we've had yet other ones that say, we'll subsidize half because we really care about our employees.
Very cool. Everything from a pass-through to a fully subsidized. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? If not, you wanted to take us through the next step and then the demo part as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay, well, we'll proceed into that. Great, thank you.
Okay, as mentioned, as part of the program, we provide a portal to the employer, and we get them set up. We send them credentials. They would log in, get to their landing page, and for the most part, this is informational. There's very few actuators within this, and that's been done by design. So if they want to check out their company, the way it exists within our system, this is how it would be. As you see there, the number of employees are just the number of employees that have either had a card instant issued to them or they've ordered the card through the app. So we do not go in and purge all the information. We only take for the active participants in the program, which again is an important thing to know. How they reside within our system. It shows all the company information. It shows the different pay period profiles. If there are multiple EIN, they'd be able to see all the different sites there. And the platform is configurable. So if they just want a payroll card and don't want money earned, they can have that. So money earned available would be set to no. Direct deposit automation, do they want that? Yes or no? Do they want their employees downloading the app and ordering the card? Some companies say absolutely not, we'll instant issue all cards. That could be turned off as well. And then the last one is, do they have multiple EINs or not? The deduction codes, what we use is factored wage amount and factored wage discount. So in its essence, if you're familiar with factoring receivables, if a company doesn't have enough banking credit to actually get a revolving loan at a bank, they'll go to a factoring company to factor their receivables. We're basically doing the same thing. We're buying the employee's receivable at a discount. And again, the language is more form over substance, but in this case, it's more substance over form because we are definitely not a loan product, so we don't even use those kind of words. If they want to check out their employees, this is highly sortable. This is the default settings, so they have their company. They can search by EINs. They can search by pay period profiles. They can check out active employees or terminated employees. And just to answer the question in advance, if an employee leaves a company and we pick up on the either the batch file or through an API call that they are no longer with the company, the money earned portion of the app basically disappears at that point. But the card goes on in force and they can take it to their next place of employment, whatever they want to do. If I do select an employee, here's how they reside in our system. So we'll give their employee ID, their name, date of birth, last four of SSN, and then the money earned details associated with it, so they can look at the current pay period and how many hours work they have, what their money earned balance is the last time we processed, and then if they have taken any money earned, it will tell how many transactions they've done and the amount that they've taken. Their address, and then their card information. So if you were looking for account and routing number, because someone wanted to do a direct deposit, it resides right there. And then it actually shows the last four of their card and what status the card is in at that point in time.
So Wayne,
from a money earned
do you mind a question, a real quick one? So dashboard, and again, the age-old question I get asked every time about technology is, how much employer information really should they have on what I'm doing with my money? In a sense, yes, I'm taking the money out of the payroll, and if I were having an advance done, they'd know that one real well. But this is almost like watching my habits, if you will. Have you had any pushback on that from a privacy aspect or too much information?
No, the information actually already resides within their system. We're just putting it in a consolidated format as it pertains to money earned. So the employer would have access to this information anyway. We're just providing it in a more detailed aspect. And one of the actuation parts, I skipped over it, the employer does have the option to disable and then enable a particular employee on money earned. So if there was an issue with an employee and they wanted to turn off money earned for whatever reason, they could do it right here simply by clicking on disable.
So as a caution, anybody looking at this, don't turn it off until you've terminated the employee. It's kind of an early warning system if you're not careful.
Or you're going to have someone in your office pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's right.
For the money earned portion of it, what we show are the current pay periods for the different pay period profiles. So for what check date and for what pay period, the start and the end date. They can look at current transactions, and again, it's all sortable. And from the onset, from the beginning of the program, we actually provide all the closed pay periods and all the information for all the transactions that have happened from the beginning of time. The next part is around the Spentra Card. So if you are doing instant issue, we send what's called a bulk order. It's an inventory of dead cards that can be issued on site. And if you wanted to find out how many you had out there, this is where you would go to see. And if you click on the blue highlighted number of cards, it drops down into a screen that shows how many cards have been issued and how many should be in inventory. You can do a date range sort of how many people have enrolled via the app, and then do the same thing for how many employees have been issued an instant issue card, again by date. And the instant card issuance, the following are the steps in order to hand a card to an employee the day that they start, or if they walk in the office and request a card. So the first thing to do is, this is an old screen. Sorry about that. There is on the envelope of the cards that are provided in one of the windows, there's a customer number. And I apologize, this is an outdated slide. There should be a picture there showing where the customer number resides on the envelope. They would simply add that number, and the number is always the first 3 alpha of the card. So if it was Sears, it would be SEA, and then a series of numbers that are associated with the card that's about to be issued. They hit next step. They would enter the employee ID that they want to hand the card to. We go and fetch all the information required at that point. They validate that that's the person they want to hand the card to, hit next step. And if the mobile number and email are already in the platform, and we are doing this through API, and this service would only be available through API and not the batch process, they would enter the full SSN, no dots, no dashes. Again, this goes to ideology just like it did on the app version. They hit validate once they have the information in there. They're given a summary screen where they can do a final check to make sure this is the person that I want to hand this card to. If they hit cancel, everything goes back to 0. But if they hit issue card, that card is now associated with that employee that they can hand to the employee. And depending on the platform, we've added the feature of set 100% direct deposit. And if they click on that, that information is backflushed into the payroll system. So direct deposit and card issuance has been done in one fell swoop, and they're done. So again, just to go back, enter the customer number, employee ID, validate, enter social, confirm, issue the card, and if they want, they can just hand the card and they're done, or they can set up direct deposit with one step.
Great. Wayne, this is Nova again. So I'm showing about 5 minutes to the hour. I'm very happy to continue the meeting. I don't know if you're okay with that, Wayne?
I don't think I have anything else.
Okay. I just want to let the audience know that if you choose to stay, we'll keep it open for a while. If you have questions, we'll give some feedback to Wayne. And if not, I'll thank you early for joining us and look for more of these coming up in the next couple of weeks. All right, we'll go back to it, Wayne. Thank you.
Okay. Reports, we just have a couple of lightweight reports right here. You can run a report of total money earned within the company that's based on a time frame. And then, something is gone askew here. Let's see. Or you can run a report. I'm sorry, it's not, for whatever reason, I've got an error here. No, there was only one more screen, and that was they can run a report based on transactions over the same time period. So if you wanted to look at some analytics of, we put this in, how many people are using it, was this a good decision, that information is made available. Right. But what I can do is, at this point, just go right to the live demo, because I know time is of the essence.
Great. And for those of us that are payroll bred, if you will, my gray hair came from payroll. So I noticed in the admin portal that you also had a listing of all the transactions on a per pay period basis, which means that you have now a highly reconcilable or balancing mechanism to compare that back to payroll, as if I have any questions, need to reconcile something, whatever.
Yeah, if there was ever an issue, all the information resides there right down to the granular level.
Right.
So what you see here is actually my phone and the Spentra app. So if I click on it, I'll go and enter using my Touch ID. And it's showing I have a balance right now of $260.71. I have $500 available to me. I will show the fee-free ATM. So it's showing all of the ATMs in my area. And let's see, I'm heading up north, so I'll pick this one. It's saying it's the 7-Eleven on Josie. If I don't remember how to get there, I click the blue button, and it actually gives me point-to-point directions on how to get there.
Really cool.
I go to money earned. It shows I have 500 available for the check date of 8/30 for the pay period and when it was last updated. So if I want to push cards to earning, and here's the new screen. So it says I have 8 money earned transactions left for the remaining current pay period, and it gives the pay period date. And I know that I have a $300 bill coming up, so I'm actually going to need $40. I hit continue. Because I'm the COO, I don't get charged on this because I do too many demos and it would cost me a whole bunch of money. But once I confirm I want to push this forward, I hit confirm. And as soon as I see that screen, the funds are physically sitting on my card. And there you go. There's the text that says $40 was added to my Spentra card ending in 0001. And if I go back to the dashboard, I now have $300.71. So I can go ahead and pay that $300 bill and be done with it.
Hey, Wayne, just a quick question to interrupt. At the screen where the employee would see that factoring fee,
yep.
If it's a scenario where the employer is sponsoring all of those fees, will the employee still see that fee, or will it show as 0?
It will show as 0. So we can configure per site. So if, say someone was underwriting half of it, they would see 50 cents. So they would see exactly what would be coming out, as opposed to seeing a fee and then not seeing it on their pay stub. Does that make sense?
So is there a way to, something I would propose, a way to raise that up to the employee's view to say, if it's sponsored by the employer, they're showing that so they can see that benefit in real time?
we just saved you X dollars or whatever. Yeah. In other words, market the benefit. Exactly.
Yeah, we can actually do that. We could put the logic in where if this company has this, when a transaction is done, show this message, and it would be your employer just picked up $2 in fees or whatever the case may be. We could put that in.
I also
That's
think it
actually a
would
good
be
suggestion.
beneficial for the employee to know that it is in fact costing the employer, so maybe they would be more cautious in moving forward.
Yeah, or they'd be more appreciative.
Yeah,
I never say it makes an employee happy. It makes them happier.
That's a good way to put it.
So I can actually go and check out my money earned history if I wanted to, if I just wanted to check that out, or I can, as I showed on the in the demo originally, I can go and see all the different places where I've either added money or took money out. I can, so if I go to block the card, are you sure you want to block it? Yes, I do. It is instantly blocked. No one would be able to take anything off my card. If I want to unblock it, it's as simple as that. So just based on time and the number of exit dings I'm hearing, does anybody else have any other questions?
I certainly have some observations, Wayne, but let me ask the audience if you'd like to give Wayne some feedback before you have to leave. Please speak up. I think, you know, as a vendor, it'd be nice to hear what your thoughts are about the relevancy, usefulness, suggestions for the improvements, etc.
And Nova, I'm going to throw the presenter back over to you.
All righty. It'll probably work. Okay. Not sure what I'm going to end up showing, but that's good. Use my screensaver. That's always a thrill. So if there are no comments coming from the audience, let me say to you a couple of things. So I want to go back to Bobby's point about the educational perspective. Mm-hmm. It strikes me that as an employee, there are things that you've got in the transaction that would be interesting to see, because when you showed the list of transactions on my phone of where I've been taking my money out, it would be interesting to push that, and you probably would end up having to push it to another vendor who's providing this financial wellness perspective of where am I spending my money, how am I doing it, how often I'm doing it, and so on. In other words, kind of changing a little bit of the behavior, because the unfortunate thing is that this is great, it's easy, way convenient, and it just makes me less cognizant of what I should be doing about my money. I'm just shooting it out the door on the debit card. So I'm thinking that some form of this financial feedback to the employee would be a very good thing. You and I talked about the wellness perspective, and I think financial wellness is as important as mental and physical and emotional. So anything you do along those lines, I think, simply enhances. Maybe through a partner or whatever the case is, if it's too problematic to have to do it yourself, which could be just that. The other perspective is, I'm sure that you've tested this on all the devices necessary. Is that the correct way to put it?
Yeah, we actually have a third-party company, and their sole job is to test across every device they can get their hands on.
So if I, in my ineptness, if you will, in using a mobile phone app, have problems, where do I go?
Again, you'd go to need help on the screen, and it would either direct you to go directly to Central Bank of Kansas City if you had issues around a particular transaction, but if you had questions regarding money earned or the app, it comes directly to us.
And as you noted, with regards to the fact that it's an interesting retention device, the fact that it could be a pass-through benefit for an employer to offer is, I think, a very kind of compelling reason why not to use it. So I'd love to hear from the audience that's still with us. Any thoughts about what would prevent you from using something like this? I think from Wayne's standpoint, and certainly mine, if I were trying to sell this, I'd love to know where the objections would lie. Anybody want to take a crack at that?
This is Roscoe. I mean, I don't think I really don't have any objections from my perspective. I think there's definitely a value to the tool out there. I think the only thing that I was thinking of, there's a lot of admin tools and everything else in there, so it might be an additional, I don't want to say burden, but it will add certain level of workload to a payroll administrator or somebody in a company to administer some of these things a little more. I do realize some of it's, light touch, but, if you start giving employees options to do things or stopping employees from doing things, where you have a payroll department that's very lean, I think some of the admin pieces on that probably added a little bit of additional burden onto what they're already doing in a very busy environment. From an employee perspective.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So from an employee perspective, I think this is awesome. I think there's a lot of opportunity on there. Again, I think the same concern from our side of everybody is the advanced pay piece of it, and sometimes people can get themselves into trouble. But I think if you're responsible with it, I think there's definitely value to it.
Yeah, and I think Spentra has done a good job at least putting a limitation on just how much I can have in any given pay period. You brought up an interesting perspective, Roscoe, and that is, so I'm a payroll manager or a payroll analyst, clerk, whatever you want to call me, and I'm running payroll, and I'm sitting at a desk, and I've got a computer. So, Wayne, the question becomes, instead of my looking for these things on an admin portal on my phone, can you take that information and pop it over into a way that I can get it from my laptop?
So the portal would be from the laptop.
Okay. Oh, okay. I got
it.
Just to
portal is the laptop,
address
the
initial question is, we have a number of employers who have put this in, and the process they had before to instant issue a card was pretty arduous. We've tried to use the technology to eliminate as much of that process as possible, because typically you would have to sign into the card provider's website and that finger in all of the information to get it done. And especially on the instant issue with direct deposit, if you just transpose one number in the account or routing number, you have a whole bunch of upset people on the paycheck date because someone's funds didn't flow through. We've actually received favorable feedback that it's actually made their job easier when it comes to the pay, because we have some people that they're on the portal every single day just looking, but we have others that haven't signed on in 6 months, and the program just keeps chugging along.
Very cool. Very cool. And I would not want anybody to walk away from this thinking this is an automated pay advance system. Far from it. And I think I told you, I asked a bunch of professionals yesterday in a presentation I was doing, does anybody provide payroll advances? And they're all shaking their heads going, no, we don't do that stuff at all. So this is not that. It's not automating payroll advances, giving, literally, to your point, employees access to their funds early with a limitation. And so, I've never heard you call it a payroll advance, nor do I think people should ever come away from it.
The only A word we use is access. And we actually have one client that, again, it's in the elder care, the in-home elder care. And these employees get assignments sent to them. And they had an issue where they surmised that about 15% of the no-shows where people said, I can't take that assignment, was because, they have to pay for their gas to drive out to a particular residence, and they couldn't do it. They didn't have the money to put it in, and that has resolved a major issue for them.
So, I hate to keep coming back to Bobby's point, but education, if you will, accompanying this, to your point, here's an instance I wouldn't have thought of that would stop me from taking a particular job because I don't have the money to do it. Well, if I have this, I've got the money. I've got the money in my hands from the previous job or on my debit card or whatever the case is. That doesn't prevent me from taking this job. So there's a sense of education. I'm wondering, have you seen any of your clients take that on themselves, and where that would be appropriately kind of housed in there. And like, I can't see the payroll department, to Roscoe's point, going out of their way to have to do all this stuff on top of everything else that they're doing. So,
no, but I would, Jason, sorry, I would offer maybe a different perspective to say, instead of attacking things from the education perspective, I think what you're going to see is if an employee is using your card for purchasing, both regular payroll, like their full direct deposit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you can give them back their spending data, sort of like if you guys are familiar with Mint and how it can show you your categorized spending and all those things. So I think instead of taking on the role of educating, fiscal responsibility, which is both a personal decision and a personal approach, we raise the data at least for them to give them the information to make their own decisions in a much easier format. I think that might add some value to your product offering to say, hey, we're gonna help track your spending for you on the card and show you what you've been using your money for. So if you, or even if it's just, I'm gonna show you what you had to use your money for on a regular basis. So whether it's, a car repair or a late power bill, right?
Right. Well, that is really outstanding. That's a great way to look at it.
I mean, there's a lot of products out there, and you see them on different TV commercials and stuff. I think it's worthwhile for taking a note down now to take a look at best of breed and ask them, educate them on what we're doing and how the two technologies can tie together. But I know inevitably it's going to be, well, just have them put their card information in our app and they can track everything. I know people feel having it all one-stop shop is the way to go. So it's finding the right existing technology that is willing to, interface where we can have it as embedded in our app, so they only have one instance that they're signing into, but they have access to everything that they need.
Mm-hmm. So again, the challenge for the group, although most of us have left, but again, if you've got any thoughts about what that looks like in terms of a very good app that you're familiar with, and that, please shoot it over to me. I'll make sure that Wayne gets that in his hand, and we go from there. All righty. Any other perspectives or questions or anything of that nature? If not, Wayne, I want to say thank you very much. As always, it's most interesting working with you and seeing the progress. Like I said, we saw money earned about 2 years ago, and this has come a long, long way since. And again, I'm waiting for the next go around and see what else is out there for you.
Well,
again, good. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say thank you, for the invite on this. Hopefully, I didn't embarrass you too much.
Oh, you never have. And thank you to the remaining folks, but those who may listen to this in the future. Thank you for all the great support around the Technology Review Council. Again, look for more of these fun things coming up in the very near future. In the meantime, have a very good week. Take care.
Thank you,
Thanks all. Bye-bye.